If you're planning on going to Nintendo World and Universal Studios Hollywood and you would like some more in-depth information on the rides, especially if you're traveling with kids, this video is for you. So spoil alert, if you want to be surprised, don't watch this video. Hi, I'm Mallory and I have 3 boys. They're 5, 10, and 12. So I am going to come from that point of view and going through the rides at Nintendo World and Universal Studios Hollywood. If you haven't watched my Nintendo World and Universal Studios tips video, I will put the link for you, and that has more overview about tickets and when to go and things like that. So in this video, I'm going to concentrate on the rides themselves, and I will go in the same order that I went in the previous video. So let's start with Nintendo World, because I highly recommend you hit up Nintendo World as the very first thing that you do as soon as you get to the park. Everybody wants to go there. That's the brand new attraction. And so you have to go there first. The Mario Kart ride is fabulous. None of my kids were scared. It does have Dry Bones, which is like a skeleton guy, and there is Bowser and things like that. So if your child is not familiar with those things, or they might be scared by that, then use your discretion. But none of my kids were scared and they all loved it. Just be prepared for a long line on this ride. It was about 85 minutes when we were in the line, and honestly, that was on the very low side. I saw it go up to 180 minutes while we were at the park. So just know it's a long line, but it goes fast. Universal does a great job at making the waiting areas kind of part of the ride experience. So they have themed decorations all throughout the waiting areas, and this ride moves pretty fast in the line. And we were also putting sunscreen on while we were in line, and there's some great photo opportunities there as well. Once you get close to the ride, they will give you a visor to put on, and that is so that the 3D glasses that are on the ride can just snap into the visor. So you may need to help kids adjust their visors. And the ride itself is very slow moving, so the actual ride part is not scary at all. The only thing, like I said, is like the Dry Bones, Bowser, those sorts of things, but it really was not scary at all. And the coin mini games inside Nintendo World were also not scary at all. Just be prepared for long lines for these, because I thought, oh, it's not a ride, so there's not gonna be long lines, but there are long lines, and you have to complete 3 out of the 4 mini games in order to qualify to do the boss battle. And so everyone in the park is trying to do those as well. And just FYI, if you don't have a power-up band, you may not be able to do some of them. Some of them, like the Piranha Plant and the boss battle, you can do more people and you don't have to have a power-up band, just FYI. And you definitely want to get a power-up band before you go on the Mario Kart ride, because you can collect points on that. Okay, so Transformers ride, my 5-year-old was really freaked out in the waiting area of this ride. There is Optimus Prime talking, and then some military kind of guys talking about how we're in trouble, the world's coming to an end, the robots are taking over. And so my son was really freaked out by this. And there's also just military stuff around, and it looks pretty realistic. This is Hollywood. They know what they're doing. They do a fabulous job with all of this. And there was like a robotic arm in a case or something. Instead, if you have kids that might be frightened, the parent go with the kids that want to ride it, and then you get the rider switch pass. So before you exit the ride, ask for a child switch pass, and it gets you to the very front of the line for 2 people, as long as it's on the same day. So the person with the child can stay outside of the ride, and then as soon as you're done, you can do the switch. My older 2 boys that are 10 and 12 absolutely loved this ride, and I love this ride as well. Jurassic World is also in the lower level, and this one works the same way with the child pass. So if you have a child that doesn't want to go on it, just ask for the pass before you exit the ride. I went on this with my 10-year-old, and the drop is no joke. It's 85 feet long, and just in comparison, if you've ever been on Splash Mountain at Disneyland, that one is about 50 feet of a drop. So 85 feet is a pretty big drop. So just be prepared for that part. I was like, oh my gosh, we're still falling. Obviously, you know, there's dinosaurs around on the ride and some of it's on the screen. Some of it is more of an animatronic kind of thing. So if you have kids that might be afraid of that, just keep that in mind and maybe do the child switch on this one. You also get wet. So if you don't want to get wet, try to be in the back half of the vehicle, although they didn't let us choose. They just sent us to the back row and I was grateful because I really didn't want to get wet. So the front half gets really soaked. So just keep that in mind. Also, because you get wet on this, a lot of people go to this after lunch because it's warmer in the afternoon, but that's when the line is longer. So I recommend you doing this ride before lunch. The Mummy ride is also in the lower level. This one is scary for younger children. It's a high thrill indoor roller coaster. The Mummy ride does have skeleton characters on it. After this, you've pretty much completed everything on the lower level and you can take the escalators to the second level. And I recommend going to Simpsons first if you want to go on Simpsons. Simpsons does remind me of Emmett's Flying Adventure at Legoland, or I think it's Soaring California at California Adventure. And for some reason, this ride just takes forever to get on. So just be prepared. There's always a long line for this one. And I'm not really sure why it takes so long. It takes forever to get on this ride. And you can also do the child switch, but I recommend asking for a child switch pass before you actually get on the ride while you're still in line, because I almost exited without asking for that pass. This one does have crude humor, and also there's this crazy guy with a knife kind of chasing everybody throughout the whole thing. So if you have a child that might be scared of that, you might want to do the child switch on this one. But the ride itself is kind of like I said, like those other rides where you're strapped into this kind of vehicle and it kind of moves around and the screen is doing things like you're on a roller coaster and things like that. I would also recommend motion sickness pills for this one if that kind of thing gets to you. Actually, the Transformers ride kind of messed with me too, but I always take Bonine. That helps me with the motion sickness and then I'm good all day. So by the time you do all of this, you might be ready for a little bit of a break. I would recommend the studio tour at this point. It is an hour-long ride and it's in the shade. You get to rest and the line is always very short for it. But if you have smaller kids or kids that might be a little bit sensitive to scary things, you might want to skip this one or take turns, because my 5-year-old was absolutely terrified on certain parts of this. To go into more detail, they do give you 3D glasses. There's a part where you go into a tunnel and they somehow snap in the trams and it's like moving and stuff. I don't know how they do it. It feels like you're on like a roller coaster or something, but you're on a tram. It looks like there's King Kong there and dinosaurs and things like that. And then in another section, it looks like a subway, and they use that, I think, for a lot of filming movies and stuff where you're in the subway and then it looks like there's an earthquake and a semi coming through the pavement that's cracked and like fire and flooding and all this crazy stuff. There's also a Fast and Furious scene where you wear the glasses, and that was a little bit intense. You go by the Bates Motel and there's a actor there acting as Norman Bates, and he's putting this really obviously a fake but dead body, there's red all over it, putting it in the trunk of his car. And then when he sees that the studio tour people have witnessed this, then he comes chasing the tram with a knife. So that part was pretty scary. All my kids had their eyes closed for that part. It was a little bit intense, but the other parts of the studio tour are great. It's really interesting to see where they film a lot of movies, like the clock tower and Back to the Future, and then just a lot of like building faces. And there's a part that kind of looks like New York City. So it's just very cool to see where they film a lot of things. Also, the set of the new movie Nope is there, and they do drive you through where the studios are. So that's where they film all of the indoor stuff. Like The Voice has a studio there, Kelly Clarkson show, things like that. So you don't actually get to go inside any of those things unless you get a VIP ticket, in which case they might take you into that. But if you're just doing the regular studio tour, you just have to stay on the tram, but you do drive through that, and that is pretty cool. The other part is Jaws. So the fake shark wasn't really scary for my kids, but there is a part where it kind of acts like it's chomping on someone and then the water turns red. So you might want to be on guard about that part as well. So my husband and I really like the studio tour. My kids, not so much. Secret Life of Pets is the next ride, and the line can get really long here, but I did see a little kiosk where I believe you can get kind of like a fast pass to come back later if the line gets really long, so that you can hit up Despicable Me or something else and then come back. And this ride was great. It was entertaining for all of us, not scary at all. And the waiting area is very cool. Some really cool photo opportunities in this section. As soon as you're done with that one, you can go right across the street to the Despicable Me ride. And this one is kind of like a 4D movie theater, but you're also in a vehicle that kind of moves a little bit, but not too much. And none of my kids were scared on this one. And sometimes Gru and the Minions are outside for a photo op, and that's really cool. They look just like the movie. And again, this is Hollywood. They know how to do things. They make things super realistic. And even on the Transformers area, they have, and I thought they were actual robots for a little bit because they look so real. It's crazy, but this is what they do, is Hollywood. And there's actually a guy in there, and they're really funny, but the way that they move and the way that their costume looks, it looks just like a robot. So that's really cool to check out as well when you're in the lower level. After the Despicable Me is the Silly Swirly. So this is more on the little kid side, but all of us did it and it was just fun, kind of like a swinging kind of thing. You're just in a little bug and it just kind of goes around and around, but you can see views of the park, and especially at night, it was actually pretty cool when the lights start coming on. Now would be a good time to do Waterworld, and you want to check out the show times on the app, and make sure you download the app before you get to Universal, and it shows you the wait times for everything, the show times for Waterworld. And yes, they are still doing Waterworld. If you've been to Universal any point in the last 20 years, you've probably seen this show, and they are still doing it because it is great. And the actors are top notch. The day that we were there, an actor from The Mandalorian was in the show, and other actors that are in all kinds of shows that I didn't even know what they are, but you really get a professional show experience going to this. And they have stunts, they have fire, they have little watercrafts that do stunts. It's very cool. And none of my kids were freaked out, but you will possibly get wet. So when you are going into the theater, and it's huge, you think, oh, well, it looks like it's might be full, all the people I see going in there, but there are so many seats, they can pack so many people in there. But the seats, and I think it was green tape, wherever the green seats were, they got absolutely soaked. So if you don't want to get soaked, then don't sit in the green section. Now it is time to go to Hogsmeade Village, which is the Harry Potter themed part of the park, and it is so cool. And we don't even do Harry Potter. I don't read Harry Potter. I've never read any of the books, but I can appreciate it. I've been to England, and it just reminds me of a quaint little English village in the winter. It's so cute. It's probably my favorite aesthetically part of the entire park. So it's very, very cool. And here you can go to Ollivander's and make your own magic wand. We don't do Harry Potter, so we didn't do that. I can't give you any tips about that, but that's available. And there's also Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. We did not go on this one. It's like you're riding on a witch's broomstick, basically. And it looks like little pews that you sit on kind of sideways, and then you go around. I saw a video on it, and it kind of looks like Peter Pan ride a little bit, but there is a big spider in this one and wizards and things like that. So if you have any kids that are sensitive to those things, then you might want to do a child switch on this one. And it is more on the high thrill side. They also have a regular roller coaster that's outside called Flights of Hippogriff, and we really loved this one. It was smooth, it was fast, and we just had fun on this one. And you can explore Hogsmeade Village, and we ate at the Three Broomsticks. I really loved that food. I am making another video where I go into more detail about the food and hotels and things like that. So I will mention what I ate in that video. We did have the butterbeer. It's basically like a super sugary cream soda. If you were curious as to what the butterbeer is, that's basically what it is. If you're not a sugary soda person like me, you can probably just pass on this one. We ordered 2 butterbeers for all 5 of us to share, and it was more than enough. The Three Broomsticks Cafe is like a British pub. So it was very cool vibes in there. So the last attraction is the Kung Fu Panda movie theater. And this one is really cute. There's usually not a long line, and it's basically like a 4D movie theater. It has 2 sections. I actually recommend going in the upper section because it's like a full panorama movie theater. And if you're in the front section, you kind of miss out on some of the side details. So I actually preferred being in the back section. And there are some some seats that don't move and don't spritz the water and stuff like that. If you have a child that's sensitive to those sorts of things, they do have stationary seats so they can just enjoy the movie portion of this. And just FYI, when they corral you into that room before you go into the movie theater, the doors that you go in are actually on the right-hand side. So if you really want to get to pick your seat, I recommend being on the right side of the room. And this is air conditioned and it feels nice. It's a nice break from the heat. And it's also a kind of fun, low-key thing to do towards the end of the day. And that's what I have for you. And as soon as I'm finished with the restaurant and hotel video, I will get that up for you as well. If you have any questions about Universal or Nintendo World and my experience, if I can answer your question, I will try to answer it. If there's other content that you would like to see, let me know in the comment section below. I'm also going to work on a video with Legoland tips because we are kind of experts on Legoland at this point. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.